Number 5, The Gift. It's hard to write a movie. It's hard to direct a movie. It's hard to act in a movie. Doing two of these things at the same time is a monumental task, but juggling all three borders on insanity. That level of involvement in any creative process runs the risk of becoming the unchecked vision of one individual instead of the collaborative efforts of numerous people, which is what film is supposed to be. Too much control in the hands of one person can go terribly wrong. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you'll find this film. Joel Edgerton has found enormous success as an actor in movies like Animal Kingdom and Warrior. His forays into writing have been mostly small independent projects, though he did write the story for The Rover, which was one of my favorite movies last year. But he had never directed a feature-length film prior to The Gift, so the success of this movie serves as evidence that Joel Edgerton really can do it all. A taut and suspenseful thriller, unreliant on jump scares or overblown scenarios, one of the tightest scripts of the year, uses simple but realistic dialogue, keep the audience guessing, aided by excellent acting from the entire cast, who are in turn well served by Edgerton's direction. But this film's greatest quality is its ability to subvert any guess the viewer might make about where it's going. The characters feel like real people, and their fear is more palpable to the audience. Rebecca Hall is especially vital to the story, providing incredible nuance to an archetype that's usually the least interesting part of these films. Jason Bateman goes against type and proves his talent for acting extends far beyond comedy, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing it by now, but Joel Edgerton is fantastic as an actor too, going full force into the awkward and creepy character of Gordo. Perfect execution on every technical and creative level gives this stalker thriller a level of crossover appeal to fans of straight drama. Bravo, Mr. Edgerton. Bravo. Number 4, Ex Machina. There's nothing original about the subject of a film being artificial intelligence. That's even the title of a movie about it. So it would require a really original take on the concept to stand out in any way. Enter Ex Machina. Essentially a chamber drama, the film only has 5 characters, one of which has no name and another of which has no lines of dialogue. The rest are comprised of 3 of the best actors working today who were largely unknown at the time of release, but who should be household names by the end of this awards season. Centering on a young programmer who believes he's won a lottery to spend a week at the home of the eccentric billionaire who owns the company he works for, the story takes a turn into the unknown as he discovers he's been selected to administer a Turing test to his boss's new AI to determine if it truly is alive. But of course it's not that simple at all. Questions about what it means to be alive and be human fly, as well as debates about the ethics and implications of creating artificial life. There's a very simple and lazy way this film could have chosen to end, but instead it takes great pains to ensure the audience that it's not going to do that, and then it delivers a much smarter ending than could have been imagined. This movie is mired in darkness both physically and metaphorically, but inserts moments of equally dark but absurd humor that only add to the audience's unsettlement. Perfectly paced and edited and featuring one of the most prevalent sound mixes of any dramatic film in recent memory, the technical aspects are essential to the overall effect, and the absolute defining factor in this film's greatness is the cinematography, including one of the most incredible shots in cinematic history in its closing moments. The combined efforts of Domhnall Gleeson, Oscar Isaac, and Alicia Vikander deserve special recognition as the most perfect mix of personalities on screen this year. What can I say? I love this movie, and I really hope that you will too. Number 3, Room. I had the unique experience of being allowed to see this film without ever having watched a trailer for it. The premise was so intriguing to me that nothing else was required to get me to the theater. But after I had already seen Room, I did watch the trailer, and I'm so grateful that I did, because the trailer kind of spoils the plot. The only thing I knew about this film was that it was about a woman and her son who had lived their whole lives together in one room. I didn't know the circumstances behind this and had no idea where the story could possibly go. But the trailer leaves nothing to the imagination. This is an incredible film, and it still would have been even if I had seen the trailer, but it was unquestionably better without it. The quality of this film is squarely on the shoulders of its stars, and they come through in spectacular fashion. Brie Larson goes to emotional depths that I had never seen from her before, and even finds new territory in acting that most of her contemporaries haven't even come close to touching. This is a landmark film in that it contains what might be the standard by which all child actors are judged from now on. 8-year-old Jacob Tremblay displays a range of acting ability that most adults can only hope to match. Perfectly portraying a child with an understanding of the world that ends at the 4 walls around him, the young actor evokes an irrepressible optimism untainted by his circumstances. Director Lenny Abramson deserves a great deal of praise for his part in drawing these performances from the actors and creating a view of the world from the perspective of a child. Can't recommend this movie enough, and I strongly suggest that you go into it without watching the trailer, so that you can be blown away by it like I was. Number 2, Spotlight. Some stories have to be seen to be believed, and while most people know the story of the abuse of children by Catholic priests, seeing the incredible lengths to which journalists had to go to break the news of the cover-ups and corruption that perpetuated these actions dramatized is nothing short of harrowing. Shying away from the hyperbole of similar films and keeping personal vendettas out of the portrayal of the characters, the movie presents its subjects as real and imperfect people trying to do the right thing in the face of adversity. Not because there's any revenge or redemption to be found in doing it, but simply because it's the right thing to do. Urgently paced and edited, the plot never takes a break to allow for character study, which works to its advantage as it shows how the story consumed the lives of the reporters investigating it, fittingly restraining itself from preaching. Every aspect of the failures of society, community, and government that let this crisis persist is brought to light, but no one thing is ever blamed. The complexity and nuance of the issue are paramount and serve as a lengthy but fair thesis for the film. The screenwriting is flawless and the direction of Tom McCarthy never falters. Talented cast of veterans resist the urge to overact, and this obvious award's hopeful, and work as an ensemble to put the story first and serve the material rather than trying to outsmart it. By the time this film faded to black, I was in a state of shock that few movies have ever evoked in me. But then the postscript text rolled and I felt like I'd been hit by a train. After a few minutes of sitting motionless, I picked my jaw up off the floor and staggered back out into the world. A few hours older, but a decade wiser. Do yourself a favor, don't miss this film. And don't underestimate it either. And my favorite movie of the year is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. There's a reason I called this list my favorite movies of the year and not the best movies of the year. The quality of a film is partially subjective, but many of the aspects that determine its quality are not, whereas my opinion is completely subjective. If I try to decide which films were the best, I could very easily be wrong due to my lack of knowledge about a certain factor, but my opinion can never be wrong. It can only be different than others. In short, I wanted this list to inspire discussion, not debate. So I know that this isn't the best movie of the year. Other films have superior design and execution, but nothing resonated with me personally more than this. Centered around a subject that's very close to my heart and stylized like the classic cinema that I adore, this film feels like it was made just for me. Never before have I felt as if a protagonist was putting my thoughts into words. I was almost unsure that this was really the content of the movie and not just the unspoken words that my mind had found an outlet for. Every joke and emotion in this film felt real to me, and I couldn't even attempt to suggest a single improvement. There's never a dull moment where I'm not either smiling or crying in the entire runtime. The script leaves no room for frivolity, using every line as character development or plot propulsion. The cinematography is unique and highly experimental, making for a truly original visual style. The editing is used to full effect to create comedy and set the tone for every single moment. The pace ebbs and flows in the most pleasant way imaginable. Jesse Andrews perfectly adapts his own novel, a feat which very few writers have ever achieved. And director Alfonso Gomez-Rejon finds every bit of comedy and tragedy to be found, culminating in a deeply satisfying balance. The supporting cast does great work. Connie Britton, Nick Offerman, John Bernthal, and Molly Shannon are flawless. The single greatest voice-only celebrity cameo makes an appearance as well. And the performances of the title characters by Thomas Mann, R.J. Seiler, and Olivia Cooke have to be considered some of the best acting by young thespians in recent memory, and it's just perfect casting. I can't say enough good things about this movie. I recommend it more highly than any other film this year, but ultimately, I simply recommend that you take the time to enjoy something that you love. For me, it's movies, so I recommend what I know, and always look forward to whatever's coming next.